Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes for those keeping count. This is episode 297, and we're getting close to that 300 mark. Now, if you've ever thought about all the companies out there that have gotten canceled and you think, that'll never happen to me. Well, my next guest, it happened to him. And so we're going to talk about what to do when you get canceled. I want to welcome my next guest, James Stocky, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this one.
You have a platform called Our American Flag Store, and it's brilliant. I mean, I've gone on it. I've looked at all the fine crafted stuff that you guys make, whether it's flags or it's other things, and I thought, wow, how can somebody cancel you? But it happened.
Yeah, it happened. I thought the same thing when we first started the business. I mean, just to show you how truly innocent this business idea is that it was actually our 6-year-old son's idea. I mean, I wish I could take the credit and say that it was my wife and I, but it wasn't. It was our 6-year-old son who thought that it would be a cool idea to take my tools that, when I wasn't installing cabinets or remodeling a kitchen somewhere, let's make an American flag out of wood.
Hmm.
And mommy, being an artist, she could paint patriotic artwork like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln on it. So that's how our business started. It was through literally a 6-year-old kid's idea. So and the American flag, we weren't really in the real heat of cancel culture, and we're just where we're as polarized as we are today. So I figured it's the American flag. This is an uncancelable, undeniably, uh, unifying symbol. Like, nobody's gonna be again. This is a product for everybody. There's so many products out there. It's like, if you're into fitness, then you gotta sell to fitness people. If you're into, like, surfing people, fishing people, whatever. I felt the American flag is every single American,
Hmm.
but I was definitely wrong about that. You know what they say about assumptions.
So you started out in what, 2017, and for a couple of years you were riding high. And everything was copacetic, and you thought this is great, and then all of a sudden the rug basically got pulled out from underneath you, and I read about the PayPal basically canceling you and taking your money.
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing, I mean, the first several years, this is pre-COVID, so we made a cool little booth out of wood, and we hung our flags in it. I mean, keep in mind our flags are made out of wood; they're not cloth. So we hung them up, and our booth would hold 15 to 20 flags in it, and we'd go to rodeos and art festivals and country music concerts and anywhere that we thought people would like to see the American flag. We'd set up our booth. So our family, all four of us, were traveling all over the country. We went from, at this time we lived in San Diego. We went all the way up to the Reno Rodeo in Nevada, travel all the way over to South Dakota to Sturgis,
Mhm.
and was at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. So and tons of, I mean, dozens and dozens of big events, small events, you know, in between. So we got to see the entire west half of the country for a good 2.5 years, and we built our business that way. Meeting customers face to face, interacting with them. Really, they got to see our family and really how things were made. So yeah, business took off really fast, because it was our son's idea, and then the quick growth that we saw. We got on. It was probably about 6 months in that we made local news on KUSI in San Diego, and they really didn't want to talk to me at all at that point. They just wanted to talk to the 6-year-old kid who came up with the idea. And my son nailed it. He did a great interview with them. I think 6 different times they would have him come in there and talk about the business. And he loved to tell people that he's mommy and daddy's boss and he's the founder of the business and everything. And so yeah, for the first couple years, um, it really seemed like we were, bringing people together. I mean, of course, you always have a couple nuts here and there,
Mhm.
but it was, you know, very rare that someone would come up to us and be like, "Oh, that's a terrible. America's terrible." At the places that we were going, you just didn't see that, but it
Mhm.
happened a couple times. Um, then probably around 2020, um, we started seeing a big difference.
Mhm.
Well, it was probably about 2019 actually that we started seeing a big difference, a big change in that when we'd go out to a booth. This mostly happened in Southern California. People were getting just emboldened to come up to our booth and yell at us and tell us that we were making signs of racism. And one guy actually spit on my wife's feet at an event. And luckily, there was actually a sheriff deputy off duty next door selling. He had his own little a product line for cops and that kind of thing. And he came over and let the guy know that that basically was assault. Anyhow, um, so the company did really good. We got out of debt and saved up some money, fixed our credit, realized that California, traveling around the country, we got to see all kinds of really, really cool people.
Mhm.
And there were two or three different people that we met that happened to be from Tennessee. Um, and just talking with them, one couple in particular, we just absolutely hit it off with them, and we decided at that point, this was in Las Vegas at the National Rodeo Final. Like a half a million people come from all over the country. Every cowboy and redneck from you know everybody loves rodeo comes to Vegas that weekend. And this one couple, um, they convinced us, yeah, we don't belong in California anymore. So we started really looking heavily into Tennessee. We found a place online and pretty much bought the house uh, offline. Really, my wife, after we made an offer on the house, it was accepted. My wife flew out here, made sure that the house was standing, and
Mhm.
they weren't pictures from 20 years ago, and that it was indeed what we thought it was. But then that we made our way cross country and landed here in Tennessee, and we're that this company, my son's idea, delivered the American dream. We were homeowners for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, and then you start to realize, hey, I use the American dream to make more of the American dream, and now you're getting this huge following, but then PayPal tries to take it away.
Yeah, well, at first it was Facebook that did it. Facebook was
Oh,
the very
Facebook.
first
Yeah.
company that hit us, and I mean, we don't know exactly what, but it was more or less simultaneously with Shopify. So what Facebook did was, um, so COVID hit,
Mhm.
and that basically eliminated our ability to go around the country and do rodeos and do that kind of thing. So this is still in San Diego. We reinvented ourselves online, started placing ads on Facebook and on Google and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. And after we figured that out, we started doing really, really well on that, just as well as going around the country. But now that we weren't traveling 3 or 4 days a week,
Mhm.
we're just in our shop making it. So that allowed our production to go more. So we were actually allowed to grow the business under COVID, really, because we didn't have to advertise and go get sales. Facebook was doing it for us, and we just stayed at home in the shop and made as many flags as we possibly could. That's when our business really grew to where we could get by our home.
Mhm.
So, but nevertheless, now we're kind of, because we are, you know, locked down.
Mhm.
We were getting a little bit further away from our customers, and our customers were the greatest source of new ideas. Someone would inevitably come into every show. Hey, have you made a flag? I mean, we were almost a year into the business, and we didn't have an Iwo Jima flag. It was a
Mhm.
customer who came up to us and said, "Hey, do you guys have one with Iwo Jima?" And my wife and I looked at each other and was like, "No, how in the heck did we miss that one?" That should have been one of the very first flags. So interacting face to face with our customer was a huge part of how our patriotic flag designs were just constantly coming out with new stuff because we were talking to people. So when COVID hit and we were isolated in our home, we were able to grow the business, but we were starting to get detached from the customer, which really we didn't like that much. We love our customers. So when we got here, it was about 4 months after we got here. And then, I mean, at this point, we've been doing ads for about a year, and it's literally clockwork. We
Mhm.
pay a certain ad amount, we get a certain amount of sales. It's very, very predictable. Almost, I mean, we're talking within $200 or $300 a month. If we pay, say $1,000 in ads, we'll get $3,000 to $5,000 worth of sales,
Mhm.
almost like every single month. And then we get here, and then all of a sudden, 4 months after we're here, nothing, no sales for an entire month. So we start thinking, well, that's weird. Maybe did I forget to place an ad? Did I place an old ad? Do I need to do a new ad? Something like so I
Mhm.
freshen it up, make a new ad, put the new ad out there, double spend on it, and make sure that we really get a good presence out there. Again, second month, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even an email of saying, "Hey, can you twist this design or do you have this?" Nothing. Just absolute crickets. So, I started doing a deep dive into what's going on. I asked some of my friends, "Hey, have you seen any of my ads lately? Has anybody put an email out to my former customers? Have you seen any of our ads on Facebook?" No, haven't seen anything.
Mhm.
So we find out that Facebook has just stopped it. They didn't send us any type of warning, no email, no nothing. We had to contact them, and they responded back saying, "Yes, your advertising privileges have been suspended. That your products do not meet our community standards." So that's the response that we got from Facebook. In doing that,
The community standards, because they don't tell you what their community standards are,
oh
they're
no,
arbitrary.
no, they don't tell us what they are. We tried to, but you're not when you're talking to Meta or Facebook, you're not talking to a person.
Right.
You're talking to like a bot or a chat, like whatever, a computer basically. So you're not getting a genuine answer. Nobody's really looking into it to really see what are the nuance of what's going on. It's just a automatic reply every time. So I start looking into advertising elsewhere. In doing that, I went to Shopify. Shopify is a website building platform that you can also host from.
Mhm.
So that's where we chose to launch our business with the online presence there. And we found out that they had taken down some of our best selling flags too.
Wow.
So for the same exact reason. So even if now we're learning that, so our advertising been cut off, so nobody's seeing our ads to go to the website. But even the ones who I'm just putting out on social media to go to my website, even when those people go to the website, they're not seeing our best selling flags, the ones that have traditionally gotten the most sales, things like the We the People flag, the
Mhm.
preamp, pretty iconic, uh, it- beloved uh, part of our history is our preamble. Um, that our Christian cross flag was taken down, our first responders flags were taken down, our military tribute flags. So if you take out the Christian flags, the military flags, and the first responder flags, the large majority of our customers, people that are real hardcore patriots, tend to be, not always, but tend to be military people. Military people always love the country. Of course they do.
Mhm.
Usually first responders, police officers, and firemen, and dispatchers, and uh, all of those types of guys and girls, they love our country. So
Mhm.
yes, they want to buy flags too. So when you take an emblem like a Navy or a Marine Corps or Army or Air Force emblem and put it on a flag, man, these guys go nuts. They want it. So Shopify pulled all of that stuff off of all of our best selling flags. They pulled off our website. So now not only are we not having new customers come to our website as a result of advertising being canceled, now the few people that we are able to get to our website, they've taken the best selling flags off to make basically purchases less appealing. So it was a double whammy at that point. That was all before PayPal. So at that point, I'm pretty much feeling like we're screwed,
Mhm.
that we don't have any hope, and I've done every possible thing I can, including I have an aunt that's a 5-time Emmy award winning director for the longest running news program in American history, Face the Nation. She's been with that show for about 30 years, 35 years. So I call her and ask her, "Hey, look, this is a newsworthy story. We're being canceled over the American flag. Wouldn't CBS be interested in that?" "Absolutely not, James. I'm not gonna do anything with you. You support Trump. He's a terrorist." if I my name was even attached to yours, and I would lose respect among my colleagues and everything. So I'm like, okay, so you're picking your colleagues over your family. And to thicken that is that her brother, my dad, when he retired in California, he moved here to our guest house in Tennessee. I mean, California's too expensive for anybody to retire in, so he moved here to Tennessee and never have a mortgage again. He lives here for just he gets to just watch us grow this business. As I was a kid, watched him build his business. Now he's watching me build a business. So, and that was a separate little dream come true. But now that's also being threatened.
Mhm.
So, so, um, we literally had no place to go. Nobody would touch us. Even conservative outlets wouldn't touch us because they were afraid if they did, they might get canceled. And, they have their employees and their responsibilities and they don't want to risk it. Things are okay with them. They're flying under the radar. So, and I totally understand that. So, what I should have done from day one is start praying. That's what I should have done. But it took all of this, me losing pretty much everything and on the brinks of going bankrupt and losing our house, that I left the shop, which is only about 100 yards from our house on our property here. I went up to the house. It was about 10:30 at night. I asked my wife to get out of bed. When I walked into the bedroom, she was actually crying. The stress was just really getting to both of us, and it was really overwhelming at that point. We were wondering how we are going to feed our kids. So, she got out of bed. She got on the into the bed with me, and I just said a prayer asking God to show us a path. And it just if He wants us to leave this business, we're fine with that. It served a great purpose. Got us out of California, got us a home. Gosh, can't really complain too much. If we make a clean break from it and go back to our previous professions, and no, it's all good. But if God wanted us to stay in this fight, that we needed to see a path because I've been shaking the bushes. I've been doing everything I can. I do not see a path forward. I do not know where to go. I do not know where to turn. So show me a path forward and I'll walk that path until the very end. But
Mhm.
just show me the path. So, and the way that I phrased that was eerie the next morning because I said, I'll walk that path until the end, God. Just show me the path. I'll walk it till the end. And then the next morning, 7:30. This was a prayer about 10:30 at night. 7:30 in the morning. I get up feeling depressed and just don't know what to do. I'm going to come up to the shop, but for what? Don't have any orders. Nobody will advertise. Like, what am I going up there for? But I put my feet on the floor, start getting out of bed, and the phone rings. Pick up the phone, and it's a producer from Newsmax. And they said, "Hey, I saw a post of yours on LinkedIn about being canceled. Would you like to come on Newsmax and tell your story tonight?" Heck yeah, I would. I'd love to. So we go on to Newsmax. We get a bunch of sales that night, and now and here's the part that was eerie. Not eerie. It was a complete blessing. So in that prayer, I said, I'll walk your path until the end if you show it to me, God. The next morning, when the producer calls, he said, James, he got all the story. I went over to him, a good 30-minute conversation. Then he asked me to send the documentation, screenshots of being canceled. And as I'm sending him, he's reading it and he's like, oh my God, this is terrible. You know what? This is going to be a long story. And you know what? We're in this story. As things develop, we'll be here for you until the end to tell the story. And right when he said that, I was just like, oh my God, like this is God's answer to my prayer. So ever since then, uh, we keep on walking that path. When we kind of seems like we're getting to kind of a at the end of the path, all of a sudden uh, the path gets cut deeper. What I mean by that is we went on Newsmax that night and got a bunch of sales. The next morning, my wife and I get up and we're like, all right, we're saved, and we start figuring out how long it's going to take us to make all these flags, how much wood we're going to need, how many screws we're going to need, all that kind of stuff. So I go to place the order for all the material and our card is declined, even though we've got, at that point, almost $100,000 in there now from that interview. And so we call PayPal and we say, "Hey, what's going on? We need to place this. We need to place this material order so we can get all these orders out." And the customer service representative, his name was Scotty. My wife had been talking with them for about 30 minutes before I walked in the room. I walk in the room, my wife is not crying, but extremely frustrated and not handling it very well. I mean, handling it like a champ, but very upset. And so I get on the phone. I say, "Hey, what's going on, Scotty? What's going on?" And he says, "Well, you have a pretty shady business, and we don't think you're going to be in business very long." And I
Shady
said,
business.
"What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, you don't even have any products that are made, and yet you're selling them." And I was like, "Yeah, because it's made to order." Like, I don't know if someone's gonna buy a marine flag with their name on it. How do I know who's gonna buy it? Some of them want their service dates on it, when they went in, when they got out. Some of them want their favorite Bible verse on it. How am I supposed to know what these people want? We make custom pieces of art.
Mhm,
And he said, "Well, still, that's a pretty shady business model. So we don't think you're gonna be in business very long. So we're holding the money." So I told him, "Well, if you hold 80, I think it was just under $90,000 of our money, of course we're going out of business. You're insuring it. We have no way to make these flags." And he says, "Well, if you make those flags and get them out in 6 months from now, we'll reevaluate your business and let you know if we're going to give you back the money." So that was pretty much rock bottom at that point, because now we have money. We can't have the money. We got a ton of orders, people depending on us to fulfill these orders, and it's only going to be a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks before people start calling going, "Hey, where's my flag? Where's my flag?" And then how do I explain that?
mhm,
"Oh, well, I don't have your money. PayPal has the money." And then they say, "Well, I don't use PayPal. I pay with a credit card." "Yes, but PayPal does my credit card processing." "Well,
mhm,
why would you have PayPal do your credit card processing if they were going to do this to you?" "I didn't know they were going to do this to you." So now I'm explaining all this stuff that a customer doesn't want to deal.
right,
They just want to buy the flag. That's all they want.
mhm.
So that was the next phase
And
of
and
we had
and
to deal
any
with.
entrepreneur that's listening, I want you to understand that if you have, $90,000 locked up by somebody and they're saying that they're not gonna give it back to you in 6 months, how will that affect your business? Most of you will be out of business, and you don't have a contingency plan, and so, I want you to just focus on what James is saying because, you know, maybe some of you aren't the prayer type, I get it, but you know what? Sometimes when you don't have anything else left to do, you have to pray and you have to get your friends involved and you got to get the news involved and you got to get anybody that you think will help you, you know, you know, get that money so you can stay in business, so you can keep people employed. So, and be better for the community. So I'll turn it back to you, James, because I interrupted.
No, it's good advice. I mean, in retrospect, we should have had a backup plan. We really should have. Now, I've been asked before, well, why didn't you just take the money out of PayPal before they did it? Well, first of all, they did it less than 24 hours later, less than 12 hours later, they put a hold on the money. So
Mhm.
we really couldn't. And that's where legislation comes in, which I'll talk about in a minute of how we're trying to solve that problem. So, of course, after they held all of our money, I called Newsmax and basically said, "Hey, you're not going to believe this. You guys helped us solve the advertising problem, but the next day, PayPal has holding up all the money." So they're like, "Okay, well, we'll get you back on the news again." So we switched credit card processing companies, and we're able to get a little bit of money, but that initial Newsmax support was pretty intense.
Mhm.
So we end up fighting with them for several months. We go on TV a couple more times. In that process, Harmeet Dillon sees our story. Harmeet Dillon, for people that don't know, she's a big time lawyer that runs the Center for American Liberty. They take pro bono cases for people that have had their personal liberties uh, challenged in some way by some very, very big company that most people can't afford to do. She has an organization that will fight for them. So Harmeet calls and says, "I'll fight to get you your money back. You don't worry about that fight. You just make these flags and get these flags out." So that's what we start doing. Harmeet almost immediately, with a lawyer like that, all of a sudden these big tech guys, when you get a big lawyer, they'll before they don't listen to you at all. You are
Mhm.
talking to a brick wall. When you get a lawyer, they do have some back channels that they can talk to their lawyers. So Harmeet was able to get them to release like $10,000. Now, at that point, that didn't even cover the material costs.
Right.
And why that's significant is that when we've never had that many orders all at once. So what that was really enabling us to do was to get a discount of almost 40% on our material if we could buy it all at one time, which makes our profit margin go up, which opens up the door for the possibility of hiring employees to make it, and all of those things that need to happen to run a business start to happen. You can start buying in bulk and buying things at a much a smaller cost that you can actually speed up
I
production.
think probably with PayPal, they saw this algorithm where all of a sudden your sales increased exponentially, and they looked at it and like, nope, we're just going to cancel you.
It's going to cancel.
Cancel.
That's it. So Harmeet was able to figure that out, start getting us a little bit of money, and we were able to start, getting flags out. But because they did not give us all of our money, we weren't allowed to take. We didn't have the luxury of taking advantage of buying things in bulk and actually saving money, because they were giving us so little at a time. It took us about 6 months to fulfill those orders. It should have only taken about 2.5 to 3 months. So now we have customers that are upset. They understood, but nevertheless, they never wanted to get caught up in a fight with PayPal. Um, so uh, at the end of the day, it was 11 months. The 6 months came to be, and PayPal said, "Nah, we're still going to hold on to your money." And that's when Harmeet really started laying in on him pretty hard that you have no reason to hold this money anymore. So it was 10 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days later that we finally got our last bit of the money.
And
And
and and, and they held it interest free, probably.
oh, yeah, yeah, they didn't pay us anything. But we'll get to that too. That's another good point. We'll get to that in a minute too. So 10 months, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 days comes, and PayPal sends our lawyer a message saying, "Hey, we're gonna." All they have is about $11,000 left. They said that we'll give him back the last $11,000 if he signs a non-disclosure agreement. So they're effectively bribing us to shut up with our own money. They're not even saying, "Hey, look, we kind of screwed up here. We're going to give you back your money. If you agree to not tell people what we did, we will compensate you for what the damages that we've caused. We feel terrible. Please accept our apology." No, 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 it wasn't that. It was, "We'll give you your money back if you sign this non-disclosure." So I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And the next day, this was on a Sunday, or it was 2 or 3 days later, actually. We went on to Fox and Friends, and we told the Fox and Friends audience what was going on. And 5 hours later, on a Sunday, keep in mind banks are not open on Sundays, but there's a big wig over at PayPal that watches Fox,
Mhm.
because 5 hours later, we got our money back after that interview. No non disclosure agreement. And so, again, that goes back to that prayer. We thought at that point, okay, we're done. We're done. We got our money back. Our customers all have their products. We through that, we have had people call us saying, "Hey, we'll do some advertising for you." Like Public Square has called us and said, "Hey, we'll never cancel you. You align with our values. Come on board with us, and we'll promote you."
Mhm.
So now we had an advertising alternative. We had some people, who's become a friend of mine and a partner in the business, Eugene Honrath, who makes our website, got us away from Shopify, built us an entirely new website, and that's one that you see online today.
Mhm.
So all these problems that big tech created have kind of been solved. So we figure God showed us a path. We walked it till the end, and it's over. But nope, not over. So then we get a call from a local congressman that's in our area. That's actually our local state congressman. And he says, "I saw you on the news. I've heard about what's going on with you. Can I come by and talk to you guys and learn more about it?" Of course, comes over to the shop. We tell him pretty much everything we've just talked about here. And he says, "This is terrible. We need laws to fix this. We need to make sure." So that path just got cut a little bit longer. So
Mhm.
we're going to walk that path until the end. And that went on for about a year, where legislation is very slow, and it needs to be. I'm not going to complain about that. It does need to be. There's all kinds of nuance in laws that, they might benefit one person, but it could hurt another. So they've got to be very, very careful when they pass laws that you're helping everybody and not hurting anybody. So I get that.
Mhm.
Um, but we seem to have a bill that both sides of the aisle, and business owners and non-business owners and everybody in Congress here in Tennessee can agree on. I get a week out before the vote is going to happen, and everything looks good. I get to Nashville February 14th, and that's when I'm going to testify about our what happened with us. And when I testify, we get there. Monty Fritz, our congressman, Representative Fritz, says, "James, I'm really sorry. The last week, PayPal has sent a bunch of lobbyists here to town, and we've lost support. We don't have support. We're not going to get this bill passed today." So I'm like, "Oh, yeah, 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 man." So the path, the path is getting longer.
Mhm.
So but Monty gave me good advice. He just said, "Just go tell the truth, tell your testimony, tell your story, be honest, and let's just see what happens." That's the only thing that we can do here, is just tell the truth, and hopefully, people will understand that we need to do something. So my testimony was not so much about what our business personally has been through, because in the last, now this has been 2.5 years of fighting big tech. I've had hundreds of calls from other business owners. They've experienced similar things to what we have. And in that time, I've learned a lot about, the marriages are really under stress, just like mine and my wife's was really under stress. When you have money or you don't have money, but you have a business and you can't feed your kids, and your wife is upset, and it is such an unbelievable load to carry every day, and to just get out of bed and to go into work knowing that there's no paycheck, there's no food on the table. My kids' clothes are not fitting the same. I haven't been able to do anything for a year because these people are holding my money.
Mhm.
Those brought on some very, very stressful times for us. We luckily were able to endure it, and we actually got stronger and closer together through the whole thing, and our faith in God was even strengthened during the whole thing. Other families aren't. So what my testimony was really about was that in the best of and I'm sure you know this, in the best of circumstances, most people know this, businesses go out of business in about 7 years. That's about the life cycle of a business in America. People have a good idea, they go for it, they try it. 5 to 7 years later, it's just not. It doesn't have longevity for whatever reason. Sometimes it's a fad, or sometimes it's poor management. Sometimes, who knows what it is, but 7 years. That's about how long businesses last.
Yeah,
So, in
my
the best
my
of circumstances, if you let a business go, 7 years. But what happens with the family behind the business, that's the real important thing that I tried to focus on in my testimony. And that was that of the 70% of businesses that go out of business, about 60% of those families end up in divorce. So when PayPal wants to talk about whatever it is that they're talking about, or Facebook, or Shopify, or whoever, or Google, that's canceling people, it's not an attack on that business or entrepreneurship. It's a literal attack on the American family, because when those businesses go out of business, the family breaks down. The kids are left in a broken home. They get anxiety because mom and dad aren't getting along and all that kind of stuff. And their childhood is, or can be, ruined as a result. Not always, but can be. So that's what I tried to focus on in my testimony. As a result of my testimony, we got all the Democrats back. We got all the Republicans back. PayPal ended up, the guys that were there, 6 lobbyists that were there to testify that day, halfway through my testimony, got up and left the building, didn't want to testify after my testimony. And then the best thing that happened was that Representative Towns from Memphis, a Democrat,
Mhm.
he was so upset. He said that he wants to launch a congressional inquiry into PayPal, finding how many people they've done this to, how much money they have held, how long they held it, and most importantly, how much money has PayPal made off of holding thousands, if not tens of thousands of people's money, which equates to probably tens of millions of dollars. So that's where we are right now in our story. And I expect that as soon as we get to the end of this part of the path, God will just cut it a little bit deeper, and we'll have to take our law to the national level, and eventually be able to hopefully end cancel culture.
Yeah, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur since 1995, so almost going on 30 years, and I've owned multiple businesses. This consulting company is now, 20 some years old. I've seen shit that make people's toes curl. I mean, but I've never seen what PayPal has done to you or any other entity like Facebook. But I've heard stories, you know, and looking back, I don't think any business could sustain waiting for almost $100,000 for 11 months. To me, that's crazy. And me personally, I would find out where someone that worked at PayPal lived, and I'd be knocking on the door. Well, where's my money? It's just,
I was
I
tempted.
yeah, and it's just, but when and I want the listeners to understand that James didn't go out looking for news sources to run a story. They found him. Not everybody's going to have that luxury, but in everything that you do, share your story. Get that story. If your business isn't surviving for some reason, share the story out there to social media. Someone's going to share it out even
Yeah.
further than you, and you may end up getting a call. If you have a representative that's in politics, a congressman, some local representation, talk to them.
Yes.
You'd be surprised at how far up the chain they can go to help save your business. It's just, I don't like businesses being taken advantage of. I don't like big tech saying, "Hey, you little guy, we're just going to take your money because there's nothing you can do about it." Yeah, we're going to become David, and you're going to become Goliath, and we're going to take you down. And that's how it is. And that's what James is proving to you guys every day. And he gets up and he just, yeah, okay, you're going to get depressed. Things may not seem like it's going to work out, but someone said to me a long time ago when one of my businesses was not failing, but the roof had collapsed and we had water everywhere, and I thought we were going to be out of business. This too shall pass, and it will.
Oh,
It will. You gotta believe that the next day it's going to be better, and this is you gotta, maybe, like I said, maybe you're not into Christianity, maybe you're not into politics. Maybe you don't like MAGA or Trump. It doesn't matter. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to rally behind other entrepreneurs because if it affects one, it affects all. So, go to James' store. It's youramericanflagstore.com and support him, really. And because you're supporting him, you support other local people, local entrepreneurs, and we can't afford to have all these big tech companies taking away entrepreneurship. So, James, we're down to about a couple minutes here. Any words of encouragement that you want to get out?
I think I would probably close out with what you just said. I mean, if you don't give up and don't be quiet. That's the 2 worst things that you can do, when you're being attacked by big tech, is to give up and to be quiet.
Hmm.
Put it out there on social media, even on the platform that might be canceling you. Facebook wasn't the platform that we actually got noticed on, it was LinkedIn. But
Hmm.
nevertheless, I mean, they're all kind of, in cahoots in some way or another. I mean, I think that they all kind of share the same ideology, but um, it was posting on social media that a producer from Newsmax saw my post
Hmm.
and didn't like what he read or
Yeah.
liked what he read.
Yeah.
And that's really what kind of got the ball rolling. And then, talking to your local politicians, that's a great way to, the politicians have connections to the news a lot of the time, and they can actually get you out there. And if they can't do that, they can talk to the other politicians in the area, and they can start doing things. the laws and legislation take some time. It's not going to be a fix for tomorrow, but um, talking works.
Yeah.
Prayer works. Uh, and just being quiet and giving up, that will never, ever, ever work.
No,
Just
and sharing that story, no matter how painful it is to share that story, get it out there
yep,
because there's other people like you that are in the same predicament, and they need to know that someone out there is going to be the beacon of hope for them. James is taking on that mantle right now, and he's encouraging others to follow because honestly, you know, without someone like James leading the way, there's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs just giving up. We need to know that it can be overcome. I've in 30 years of being an entrepreneur, like I said, I've seen some things, and even one of my books, Rob versus the Entitled, which is part of my Rob versus series of sarcastic books. Amazon took it off. They For 6 months it was gone. It wasn't available,
hmm.
and I'm like, hey, call him up. What's going on? Why isn't? Oh, somebody was triggered by your book, so we took it down. You put it back up, and it took a while. They did get it back up. I didn't lose, you know, thousands of dollars. I didn't get my money held, but I had to speak up. And I want everybody to understand that, you know, you may feel like you're at the end of the rope. You may feel like, being canceled is the end of the world. Speak up, share your story. Because if James can do it and I can do it, you can do it. And I'll leave it at that. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. So see ya and go to James' store, youramericanflagstore.com. Adios.